Welcome to the August 2018 Star Wars Canon Update. This time around we got 9 new comic issues, so let's get to it. Starting with Darth Vader by Charles Soule, issues 19 and 20 were grim. That was kind of the point, and Soule even said his goal in 19 was to remind everyone that Vader is not the good guy just because he's the focus of the series. As a fan that adores this series, I think that's an important reminder. The true message of Darth Vader, in my opinion, is redemption. The bad guys are cool, Vader is very cool. It's fun to read about this stuff, but it's important we don't get swept up into glorifying it. Okay, off my soapbox and into the actual content. Vader catches up with Eth Koth and kills him, and the Inquisitors take his newborn child for Project Harvester, which is something from Season 1 of Star Wars Rebels. It's basically the codename for the collection of Force-sensitive children. At the moment, there aren't any more Jedi to easily find, so Vader turns his attention to 2 Inquisitors who have started a romantic relationship. He attacks them and chases them through Coruscant, causing a lot of mayhem and destruction, until he catches them and kills them, basically for their attachment to each other over the Empire. Palpatine is displeased with the destruction and demands the Inquisitorius be moved to another planet, and Vader requests Mustafar. While interesting, these 2 issues were a bit of a slow burn. That doesn't mean they were remotely bad. I think we're building to some really cool stuff in the coming issues as Vader eventually constructs his fortress. Moving on to the main Star Wars run, this issue contained a moment I have been waiting for a long time. The entire Rebel fleet is still under attack. Their ships are locked down thanks to the traitorous Queen Trios, and the only way starfighters might be able to get out and fight is by flying full speed at the hangar doors. A failsafe kicks in, the doors open, and Luke, Wedge, Hobby, Zev Senesca, and more join the battle. Thinking of Jyn Erso and her desperate attack on Scarif, Luke names the impromptu squadron Rogue Squadron. I've already done a video talking about this moment more because it means a lot to me, so you can watch that if you're interested, but I'm gonna move on. Dr. Aphra 23 brings back Tam Posla yet again from last month and the previous arc, and Rogue One before all that. Aphra manipulates him to help her, Sana Starros, Inspector Tolvin, and her new changeling friend to get off a flying junk prison before it crashes into a rebel planet. She is also dead set on retrieving an old lightsaber, the kyber crystal of which has affected some sort of sentient fungus that now manifests itself as a ghost. This comic is so bonkers, but in the best way. It's so weird and I'm just into it. Their escape seems imminent, but the final few pages hint that Darth Vader will soon be re-entering the story when, up until now, he believed Dr. Aphra to be dead, so that should be interesting. Poe Dameron number 30 is the second to last issue of the series and continues the story of Black Squadron during the events of The Last Jedi. We also get a look at First Order movement throughout the galaxy, confirming that what we see of them in the film is just a small part. The rest of them are off conquering worlds in the chaos following Hosnian Prime's destruction. Not only that, but at least on this one Outer Rim planet, there are First Order sympathizers helping overthrow the local planetary government. Black Squadron offers what help they can, and the last frame is yet another grim image, showing Jessica Pava in a desperate situation with Suralinda dead. Or at least I assume she's dead, unless Squamadons have extra hearts, I don't know. This might be the most tension the series has ever built up. We're finally in a position where all of these characters could potentially die. I'd be surprised if that happened, but it's not out of the question. The second Poe Dameron annual also came out this month. It jumped back in time a bit, although it's not really clear exactly when this takes place. Black Squadron is out to steal some unknown but valuable cargo before it can be sold to the First Order, but Han is after it as well, so he can pay off some old debts, surprise surprise. They unknowingly race each other to grab it, but once Han realizes the cargo is for Leia, he secretly helps the Resistance secure it, and it winds up being the last remnants of the Library of Alderaan. This was a nice little story, and I did really enjoy seeing Han covertly helping Poe and the others. 3PO was another nice touch, having set up the heist, despite his claims that his programming couldn't possibly allow him to be a spy or plan anything so nefarious. And finally, Black Squadron had to fly some old Clone Wars era ships to go undercover, so we saw a Z-95 Headhunter, and Snap flew an Eta II class Interceptor, which he had trouble controlling because he's not a Jedi. A lot of good stuff in this issue. I definitely liked it more than the first Poe annual. The Lando comic has been up and down for me. I didn't really like the third issue, but the fourth this month worked a lot better. Lando continues to help some slaves fight for their freedom, and he's doing it all for fortune and glory. So come to think of it, this story is very similar to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom at its core. I still think this series will wind up being more or less skippable, but there were a lot of good lines and jokes from Lando this time around. I do like the idea that this is another installment of the Calrissian Chronicles, and if I compare it to the Lando Calrissian Adventures from Legends, it fits in well. Next month, I'll be able to have a solid opinion one way or the other when the series is over. The Beckett one-shot was straight up disappointing to me. The story was completely inconsequential. It had some fun moments, mostly surrounding Rio, but it just left me wanting more. The C-3PO comic is the only one-shot so far that I've felt was worthy. It had something to say, and it answered some questions we had. Beckett just didn't do any of that. I think Enfys Nest or Kira would have been much better candidates for a one-shot comic tie-in to Solo. I actually recommend skipping Beckett. The 5th issue of the Last Jedi comic adaptation came out, and while I've been enjoying seeing a new take on the story, this issue was mostly made up of action and didn't have room to give us any new details, at least not any that I noticed. Star Wars Adventures 13 was one of the best issues of this series. For something targeted at younger kids, it was still very goofy, but also had a relevant and heavy message regarding the truth and how it can be altered by people with a voice in the public eye. Also, at one point, Anakin had to throw on a gas mask, and I just thought that was a nice touch. The second story was less impactful, but it was about Max Rebo, so everyone should go read it. It's worth noting that he's shown to have 2 legs and no arms, so I guess they're doubling down on that. I'll admit, as a long-term Max Rebo fan, that's gonna take some getting used to for me. But that's it for the month of August. The Canon Update will return October 1st to cover the 2 new books and 8 new comics that'll be released in September. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with new content and lore videos every single day, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.